Morning, everyone. My name is Ed Franz. I'm the outdoor recreation planner for the Gunnison Gorge National Conservation Area. I also manage the recreation on the rest of the rivers in the Uncompahgre Field Office. And just to get you there, I thought I'd put up a map of the state of Colorado, and you can see that our state is hydrophobic. All the water flows away from Colorado. Montrose is located to the southeast of Grand Junction, and the river I want to talk with you about today is the San Miguel River. And John gave a nice kind of intro to this river. It's about 70 miles long. It starts up in the snow-covered peaks of the San Juan Mountains up by Telluride, and by the time it finishes its 70-mile journey, it's down in the Colorado Plateau, down in the Red Rock Canyon country. This one shows a little bit of land ownership data. You've got the green of the Forest Service and the yellow of the BLM. So you can see the San Miguel flows mostly through BLM managed lands. And it really is a beautiful river. It's a very special place that is treasured by the people of San Miguel County and western Montrose County. There's a lot of recreation that goes on this river. That's one of our seasonal river rangers that won't be returning because of the sequester, doing a patrol of the river there. There's good fishing on that river, self-sustaining trout populations in some areas. Freestone River, it's a kind of a constant gradient, kind of a happy, bubbling river all the way down. And there's commercial recreation that takes place on there, both fishing and rafting. And one of the recreational activities that's really been increasing and coming to our attention more lately is recreational gold mining. And the San Miguel has had historic gold mines on it in the past. None of those are active right now. There are some active claims out there, but they're generally owned and managed as claims by gold mining clubs they really are purely recreational. Nobody's getting rich doing this. Nobody's even able to pay for their gas doing this. I've talked to some of the miners out there and said, well, you know, he's got his little eyedropper out and he's sucking up little tiny flakes of gold and putting them in maybe a little 1 cc vial. And he said, if it's a good day, I'll cover the bottom of this vial with a little bit of gold dust. So they're not out there commercially. It is purely recreational. And you talk to them, and they sound like any other recreationist out here. What are you doing out here? Well, enjoying the sunny day in a beautiful location. So to manage, I don't expect you to read that. To manage that recreational activity out there, we do ask that people who are wanting to do recreational mining come by our office in Montrose and sign our casual use form. And this kind of tells us where they're going to be. It's good for a calendar year. And it also lets them know kind of the rules of doing those kinds of activities out on the San Miguel. 3809, I hate to do this to you, is one of the, it's part of the CFRs, the Code of Federal Regulations, and it's the way we manage mining on mining claims, placer mining on mining claims. And people can go out and do casual use mining. It's kind of a low level of use, very kind of unnoticeable out there, small time operations. But once it bumps above that, it goes into a mining notice level claim where they have to come in and give us a specific notice of what they intend to do. And there's also a bond required for rehabilitation after their mining activity. The third level is a plan of operations, one of my favorite 3-letter acronyms. And the plan of operations would be a much higher level of impact, would require environmental analysis through the NEPA process. We don't have any plans of operation out on the San Miguel right now. There is power suction dredging out there. They're limited to a 4-inch intake hose on the suction dredge, and what they do is they kind of get under the gravel that's covering the surface of the riverbed, and then process the soils underneath there, the deposits underneath there, and basically what they're getting at is gold that's come out of the old mines, has flowed down the river, and has been redeposited. The dredging cannot take place within 2 feet of a vegetated shore, and they can't undercut any vegetation legally. And any excavations that they create, and they can disturb up to 2 cubic yards a day, must be filled back in and rehabilitated. Operators are responsible for it, especially on the claimed areas where there is an active mining claim. And once again, that's typically managed by the clubs. So that's kind of how we've been managing it over the years, and it's not been too much of a problem until last year, when we started seeing some major impacts. This trench was dug in there. The vegetation was undercut. This is a vegetated island in the river, and they're basically eating into the entire island. You can see a guy dredging there in the distance. Holes being dug in the banks of the river, and some of this we're not exactly sure where it's coming from. Maybe there's some linkage to the dramatic increase in the price of gold. Maybe it's the fact that fewer people have jobs right now, so they're going out and kicking around out in the river. But these types of impacts, undercutting of banks, building dams into the river, there are couple of pretty deep holes in this shot, and it's actually diverting the natural flow of the river. That's not casual use. So we've moved beyond casual use out there, and now we really need to do something about it. And this is where the lessons learned are still coming in. Turns out that recreational placer mining is a pretty complex subject, much more so than I ever imagined when we started into this. The BLM land, generally, the BLM land is subject to the 1872 mining law. It comes with that 3809 regulation. We've got some strong legal avenues for managing that type of use. And again, we got the 3 different levels: casual use, notice level, and then plan of operations. Turns out that in areas of critical environmental concern, you can't even use a notice to do anything beyond casual use. So it automatically requires a plan of operations. And on the San Miguel, we have an ACEC, Area of Critical Environmental Concern. And the ACEC was established to protect some pretty unique vegetative communities in the riparian area of the San Miguel. We worked closely with the Nature Conservancy back in the 80s to get this area protected. In addition to the ACEC down there, we also have wild and scenic eligible reaches of river all down the San Miguel. Basically, everywhere where there's public land, we found eligible reaches of river in there. Now, this does not mean that they're designated wild and scenic. They're not. It's just going through the process of analysis. But while we're analyzing these rivers, while we're analyzing the wild and scenic issues out here, we are required to protect the resources that those wild and scenic areas, the sensitive resources identified. They're called outstandingly remarkable values. Let's take a look at a smaller area, a little bite-sized chunk of the river here. This is an area that we call the ledges, and it's all BLM in that area. We've got a couple of campgrounds down there. Rec sites developed along the way that we find all kinds of people using. Kayakers love to go down there. There's an amazing play wave down there that they really enjoy boating in, and also the gold miners go in there a lot. Plus, we can't forget that we've got the wild and scenic in there that we're protecting as well. And this is a scenic stretch of wild and scenic river, and the outstandingly remarkable values include some really unique vegetation, some very important vegetation, which provides excellent habitat for wildlife. We've got 300 species of birds that have been identified in that area. There's recreation for recreational fishing. We've got self-sustaining trout populations in there, and there's also fish. And the 3 BLM and Colorado sensitive species of warm water fish, bluehead sucker, flannelmouth sucker, and round-tailed chub all depend on this piece of water. Now, it's all BLM, but that's not the end of the story. The darker polygons in here are pieces of BLM land that went out of BLM ownership in the past. They were patented mining claims, and the ownership of that land and the minerals went to a private entity. Since that time, we've reacquired these lands, and acquired lands come back without being subject to the 1872 mining law. So we have, as you can see, the little corners of that nicking the edge of the river as you go down. We have a different management scenario in just a few hundred feet. As you walk down the river, you're crossing boundaries. Because we have different management on those areas, one subject to the 1872 mining law with its very clearly stated restrictions, the other is not. And it makes us tempted to manage them differently. But how would you tell people out on the ground which piece of land they're on? Well, we couldn't put that many signs out there, and they wouldn't survive the gunshots very long either. So what we intend to do is to, and we've started this outreach effort. A couple of weeks ago, we met with the Olathe Gold Mining Club, and we're reaching out to the people that are out there actively doing that. And as in so many things with the BLM, the clubs are the ones that are good to work with. They're the ones that are trying to follow the rules and do things right. And it's usually some rogue individuals that are out kind of messing that up. So these guys have some skin in the game, and they're interested in getting these impacts under control. When we showed the same pictures to them at that presentation of those impacts, and they were pretty disturbed by that. They heard lots of complaints about, I went down there and filled 10 holes. I don't know who left them there. So they're trying. So we'll talk to the miners. We'll talk to the claimants. We'll try and get things straightened out with them. Make sure that they're understanding the regulations they have to live under. But the question comes in those areas that are not managed under the 1872 mining law. These are areas where it's purely recreational, and all we have as far as regulation in order to manage that is natural resource damage. Our law enforcement ranger goes out, somebody's digging under the bank, and he says, that's natural resource damage, writes them a ticket, and they have to go pay it. That gets a little tricky, and I'm thinking especially with the endangered fish. I'm not sure that a law enforcement ranger is qualified to understand all of the resource damage that may be going on out there. And even if he wrote a ticket for somebody disturbing something under the surface of the water that's going to be filled in the next spring's flood, I'm not sure a magistrate would honor that ticket. So it's a kind of a difficult situation. So some of the things that we're considering are, we can close all of the lands that are not subject to the 1872 mining law. We can close them to recreational placer mining. Again, that's difficult because we've got that kind of that checkerboard pattern all the way down the river. We could limit the level of activity, for example, just restricting motorized use in there, motorized equipment, which is essentially suction dredges. We could designate specific areas as open to recreational placer mining with or without suction dredging. And I know on the Arkansas River, the BLM has designated an area for mining, and that seems to be working for them. Not sure it works on the San Miguel. But we are actively working with our local mining clubs. We are trying to get the message out and to get feedback from them, because they're the ones out there doing it, and they could probably give us some pretty good ideas on what might or might not be effective in that type of management. And that's where we are right now. We're still in the process of learning these lessons. If anybody is in a similar situation where you're managing or trying to control some of the recreational mining that goes on out there, please feel free to email me or give me a call, because it's just kind of a big hairball of management for the recreational placer mining. I called our mining guy in Washington, D.C. and said, hey, I've got a question about recreational placer mining, and I just hear this gasp on the other end. He said, wow, we spend so much time on this issue. So it really is rather complicated. But that's where we are right now, and if you do have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Yep, we have time for questions. Anything? In the back, Scott? Oh, Mike's coming.
Thank you. I'm Scott Ogan from Alaska. Do you require a plan of operations for all the mining clubs, or just when they get past the threshold of being recreational?
It's once they cross the threshold. Right now, they think they're operating at a casual use level, so we haven't even required a notice for them. But after our talks with them, and we're meeting with them again in a couple of weeks, it's becoming clear that there will be notices required and bonds required to cover should we have to go back in and rehab the site for them. On the mining claims, once they go beyond casual use, that notice level activity, they can disturb up to 5 acres. Once it goes beyond 5 acres, or if it's in an ACEC, then it goes to a plan of operations.
Anything else? Thank you very much.